Hi everyone, the Lone Wolf here, and welcome to EVE Talk, your weekly look at the market in EVE Online. And if you look below, you'll see that the movements are very small, so I actually think that most people have taken their positions before the RIA release, and that over the last week or so the market has been decently quiet. Everyone is just waiting to see what RIA is going to bring and what the actual impact is going to be. If you are into trading, you've already done your analysis and made your moves. So yeah, let's jump right into the market. There is of course one exception, a pretty notable exception, and that is plex, and I'll write down 45 seconds for that. So 0.45. That one is back up to 885 million. So it's a little bit of a correction after the serious decline from last week. Now, I must say that one was extremely steep as well, breaking the 840 million barrier, almost reaching 820 million. To lose 140 million in 1 week is an extreme movement. And so I think that there are two possibilities when it comes to this increase in price by like something like 65 million or so in plex. One could be that the decline was just too steep. I think it was very extreme, and so I think that is possible, that it's just a normal market, that there's enough people that actually would like a few plex to be able to fund their account for a few months, that they said, well, 820 million, 830 million, that's good, I'll just buy a couple of plex just to be safe, and that this is a normal counter reaction. Another possibility is, of course, that the people that believed that the decline was actually triggered by an intervention by CCP could be right, because it's a serious increase in price once again, to go back up there in just a single week, to see all of that news that should have, or that would have triggered the decline in plex prices, just completely dissipate in another week, and we see upwards momentum there once again. I think that does give credence to the theory that CCP might have just dumped a number of plexes from, usually they do this from banned accounts, onto the market to try and stop this increase in price that we had seen like 2 weeks ago, where that was just as extreme as the downward movement right here. So you could see that it went up from 860 million to 960 million in the span of maybe 2 weeks. I think it's more like 10 days or something like that. So CCP might have said, well, that's just a little bit too steep, we're actually going to do something about that. They put a lot of plex on the market, crashing the price down here to almost as low as 820 million. But now that that has been digested by the market, volumes for plex are actually pretty big on a daily basis. It is possible that we are back in a normal trend, an upward trend for plexes, and that as such it's actually going to be the RIA release which I think is going to determine whether or not it's going to have been a manipulation by CCP, or a reaction to the Iceboxer changes, to just what's happening in EVE Online at the moment, and to the RIA release. So I would say RIA is almost on par with a winter expansion from CCP, and that is usually when plex do turn around. So I think I'm really curious to see by next week or the week after that whether or not plexes are going back up towards the 1 billion mark or not. If they are, I would suspect that this was actually a CCP intervention. If not, then I think it's possible that it's just normal market forces, and with people expecting to make a little bit less money on multiple accounts, they might just cool down the prices for plex a little bit. We'll have to wait and see. I think that's the general approach in the market in the last week and until the RIA release. So yeah, we'll wait and see. Next up, the minerals, 435. Sounds good. Let's start here with titanium, also finally calming down a little bit. Let me see here, if I go for the 1 month chart, you can see that together with the plex decrease in price, the expectation that minerals would go up has been strongly followed by the market. pushing prices from 5.6 ISK to 6.3 ISK. And again, here we do see a little bit of a counter movement. So the titanium is now at like, well, again 6.3. It's actually going back up once again here, right at the tail end. But you can see in the last week a little bit of a counter reaction, pulling titanium down from 6.3 to 6.10, which is again, it's like the reverse of what we've just seen in Plex. So it is possible that, yeah, that is just a normal market correction on the very steep increase or decrease in price by the product. So let's have a quick look here at pyrite. What is that one doing? Also, as you can see right here, the increase in price last week reaching a top of almost 11.8 ISK. After that, a little bit of a correction, but unlike titanium, which has already picked back up towards 6.3, pyrite is now flattening out at around 11.4. So it's quite a bit higher than what it was like a month ago, 0.3 ISK. Might not sound like that much, but it is definitely a higher normal price, I guess, for pyrite that we can expect here. And if it can manage to maintain its sideways movement, then yeah, I guess the Iceboxer change will have been the trigger for all of this. A huge increase in price all of a sudden, a normal market correction after such an increase, and then a new consensus price that's, well, a little bit higher than what it was previously. Let's take a look at Mexalon then. That one tried a little bump here from 59 to 61 ISK, then dropped back down to 59, and now maybe slowly trying to go back up here. Let's have a quick look at supply demand for these. 234 million units, that's actually a decent amount of supply at demand at 58.51 ISK. When it comes to supply, 16, 20, something like that. Here we have 40, 50. I'm seeing bigger buy orders than sell orders, so I would suspect that, yeah, that Mexalon might actually slowly go up a little bit when it comes to the supply demand situation. But Mexalon has not reacted in the same way as titanium and pyrite, because it was on much more of a downward movement. I also do think that its increase in price was a little bit more extreme than the other ones over the summer, or over autumn, I should say. Right here you can see it reached a high of 74 ISK, which was quite a steep increase from a few months before that. And after this, you know, the correction was already set in, and so the bump with the Iceboxer change has been almost nullified by now. But still, you know, supply demand, I'm seeing a little bit more demand than supply here, which means I think a little bit of upward pressure for Mexalon. Let's have a look at the 1 month chart for Isogen then, see what that one is doing. Also Isaac one, here again you can see this little spike here last week, or the week before that I should say, up to 124 from 116, so 8 ISK increase in price, almost 10%, and then a corrective reaction by the market saying, hey, that's maybe a little bit high, 120 sounds good to us. And here slightly going up here again in price, so market forces take over once again. I guess that this supply demand here, a very recent order of 4 million units, and one of the more recent sell orders here of 1.6 million units. Nothing too recent in here, but yeah, the competition is in the buy orders. I do think that there is a bit more demand than supply for the minerals, and thus a little bit of upward pressure here, which is going to, yeah, maybe get Isogen once again up to that 124, 125 price mark here, just as we've seen with titanium, which seems to move a little bit faster than the other ones for some reason. So very interesting high-sec mineral market. If I mirror this on what happened to the plexus, it does look like it might just be a normal market correction to the huge increase in a very short amount of time. Let's have a look at Noxium then. Also increased and flattening out at 580. Let me quickly see if I can get a 6 month chart here. It is pretty interesting. To me, Noxium, Zydrine and Megasite or null-sec minerals have been on a downward trend for 6 months, maybe even a full year or so. It's been quite a ride down. With the change last week with the Iceboxer, banning that CCP is planning, there was a reaction in all of these minerals, so a reaction up. What I do think is interesting is that Noxium is already flattening out right here, and so it looked like finally at the beginning of November these minerals were starting to find their bottom, you know, below 540, like 530, 520 was really the limit. You can see that on that data point right here, 520, really the limit on how low Noxium was going to go. There was a little bit of sideways movement at the 530 price mark, then the bump up, but now we're again seeing more of a sideways movement here. So I would suspect that we are actually close to the bottom prices, the normal prices for Noxium here for a while. So that's actually pretty interesting in my book. Let's have a look here at Zydrine if we see something similar. Yep, here again Zydrine spiking up quite substantially, and then here correcting back. You can see the 20-day moving average though moving up, and I do think that here again Zydrine was trying to find its bottom close to 420 ISK, and right here if these two do come together as I expect, we'll probably see a floor a little bit higher, like maybe 460, 470, something like that. I think is a possibility. So that it's pretty interesting. This could indeed have been the bottom for these minerals, and then of course you have to start keeping an eye on the news, because news from nullsec could have a big impact on this. We know that there are some wars brewing, some renters are being left behind. They usually, I think, do mine a little bit, supply these minerals to the market. If we have a big winter war, we could finally see an increase in price in these nullsec minerals if supply does drop because of these wars. I think it's in the cards, but you'll have to keep an eye on the news and all of that, of course. Let's have a look at the megasite chart here. Again here bumping up after trying to find its bottom at around 700 ISK. I think once it crossed that, people said, oh no, that's actually low enough, I'll start buying some megasite here. And again, this is the bump from the Iceboxer change, and then here more of a sideways movement for megasite. So I think it might finally have found its price here, and if I go for a 1-year chart, you can see where it comes from, you know. Like a year ago, above 1600 ISK, a bottom of 700. That's quite a serious correction over the summer and the autumn period right here, with that little bump up. And I do think we won't see like a drastic correction anymore in this. So yeah, there you go. That's my take on the mineral market. Pretty good stuff. I like how the high-sec minerals have all gone up a little bit, the null-sec minerals have gone down substantially, and the effect on the Tech 1 market has actually been pretty negligible. So let's jump into that one. I'll write down 1240 for that. Here, for instance, I'm going to go for the 1-year chart of the Caracol. Sure, it started off at like 9 million, went up a little bit, but you can see from like February or something like that, that the Caracol has been able to maintain its price with a few ups and a few downs, of course, close to 10.5 million ISK, and right now it's there right on the money. So I do think that that's a pretty interesting facet here of the Tech 1 market. My expectation is honestly that it's just the industrials, that industry people, you know, the players that produce all this stuff, have a good handle on the market, do their homework. They've got the supplies ready to take advantage of any of these spikes, which you can see correct pretty quickly. But they don't completely flood the market either at whenever like minerals go down a little bit. You know, you don't see a sudden flood, an increase in production and then a flood of that. So that's looking quite okay. This is the Dominic's chart again. Quite a few ups and downs, of course, but keep in mind this is like in between 170 and 205 million. If you take the very extremes, most of the chart is sitting between 175 and 195, like a 10% margin on the Dominic's, up and down a little bit, with an average of, I would say, just a little bit below 190 million or something like that, a normal price for the Dominic's. Again, starting a little bit lower a year ago, but ending pretty much on 190, which is a normal price pretty much over this 1 year. Not that much of a movement, I would say, since February, where Dominic's did go up in price a little bit, reached 190, bit of a correction, and then it started its meandering around a normal price point. This is the Drake then. The Drake was actually in a very low position like a little bit more than a year ago because of all the nerfs it received. But here again, I think you can see this, you know, here like 47 million where it was January 1st seems to be right on the money, going down a little bit, period that it's a bit higher, then again a period that's a bit lower, and here ending again the year at the 47 million mark. I'd say this is a very good and stable market for the manufacturers, and I think that's actually good news for like newer players. If you're looking for something that seems to have a pretty good turnover, you know, take one chips, people are willing to make fleets of that, people are willing to lose them, and it's not like it's being overproduced that much that that is being flooded and that it's cratering together with like the nullsec mineral prices or anything like that. No, managed to maintain itself quite well. Ships that require a lot of nullsec minerals probably have had their margins increased because of all of this, so looks pretty good. Let's have a quick look then at the Myrmidon 1 year chart. Again here, you know, 48 million, right around that, most of the time a little bit above that, quick dip below that here. So yeah, looking like a decently healthy, well supplied market here. Rupture pretty good. Look at the band here, most of the time between 9 and 11 million. So that is just really stable. And then here the Talos chart. It is a newer ship, the Talos. It's also a little bit of niche, you know, if you want to get a gang done, you'll probably fly a Tornado, but Taloses, they have their uses. But still 72 million, something like that, above that and below that a little bit, but not too much, you know. 68 million to 78 million, that's a 10 million difference on like the highest differences over a 1 year period. I don't think is anything too drastic, and overall managing to maintain its price. A good job there in the Take One market, I think. Someone requested it after the previous one that I also check the frigates. I'll do it today, but I think you will quickly see that doesn't have that much to show for it. As you can see here, pretty stable market with a very slow downtrend here for the Crucifier, for instance, but hanging at around the 420,000 ISK. This is I've noticed this right away. The reason for that, if I go for market data, look at that, 850, 474 on the sellers, 1,000 and 177 on the buyers, and they're actually still pretty close, like 372 a bottom price, 400 a top, 410 a top price, but the numbers are just so big compared to the daily average that they really hardly move. There's a little bit, I think there's a better chance to catch trends and stuff like that in the bigger ships, because they require much more material to produce. Let's say that you produce executioners compared to someone that produces Dominixes. If you stock up on a few 100 million of minerals, that's no problem. You'll be able to keep producing executioners at the same pace, at the same price for quite a while. Someone doing that with Dominixes, well, he can produce one Dominix and that's it. So this is why the fluctuations are even lower when it comes to the frigate market, and it's also, I don't think, the best indicator to see if other aspects of the game actually have an impact on the Take One production. I honestly think that the bigger ships are a bit better for that. The Inquisitor, a couple of interesting spikes, but overall you can see 400 to 450,000 ISK is pretty much where they're sitting at. Let's maybe touch on a few Galente ones here. This is the Atron. Also again pretty stable overall, and yeah, I just gave you guys my reason why I don't actually feel like touching on the frigates. If you go for 1 month charts, they're just extremely boring, extremely flat, because let's have a quick look here at the numbers. 854 for 74, 630, and here again an order of 1,000 of them willing to pick them up at 372,000 ISK. The daily volume is like maybe 400 units, 350 units, something like that. So people can just bring so many of these to the market that they can create a very stable market, because any reserves they make, like one faction module of 200 million is so many frigates that it's actually very hard. Trends could be delayed quite a little bit. as well. You know, if something is happening to the Tech 1 market, it's not going to show up in the frigates first. Quite the contrary, it's going to show up in the frigate market last, because people have their reserves if they're building them. So yeah, it was a good suggestion, I think, and I like that you're interested in the frigate market, but honestly, it's just a little bit stable and a little bit delayed compared to the bigger ships, which is why I don't include them in my normal list anymore. Let's move on to Tech 2 market then, 20 minutes. And I will quickly touch on these. I'll go for the 6-month charts here. I like to have trends on 6 months. I think for these I give a pretty good idea. Look at the Basilisk, very nice selling opportunity right here. Was it really over here at the 165 last week? That does show the trade potential of the Tech 2 market right here. 195, you know, you'll be able to sell them for like 189, no problem. They'll probably be out the door if you don't completely flood the market, of course, but you should be able to sell some basilisks at that price. And yeah, just like 1 or 2 weeks ago, you probably had an opportunity to buy them at like 165, which is quite a bit more than a 10% margin. Not bad to see these spikes in the Tech 2 market. Here is the Guardian. Coming more into an interesting buying period, I think, close to 135. If you have buy orders below that, yeah, 131. I think competing for some of these buy orders might actually not be a bad idea. You can see that you've had sell opportunities over the last 6 months at 170. Several of them 165, 160, something like that. If you can buy a Guardian close to 130, you've probably not made a bad investment. This is the Hound chart then, working on a spike. Unfortunately, the real buy opportunity at like 18 million is already passed, but you can see that it does spike up and down a little bit. I'd say close to 19 million here seems to be a trigger where the market does tend to say, well, that's actually pretty low, we'll start buying all the Hounds, and then the price goes up. If anyone actually wants to go out there and fly a few stealth bombers or create a bomber fleet, and thus you get these beautiful sell opportunities, which apparently the Hound is working on right now. Current prices 22.4 million. That's, yeah, right around this data point. So again, that's not bad, especially if you picked a few up at like 18 million. Here is the Manticore chart, again pretty high, but already coming off of that, which honestly, that's not a bad spike right here. If you see that very low buying opportunity at 19 million and a spike up to 24 million, that's 5 million on an investment of 19 million. That's really not bad at all. I think people that invested here have probably made quite a bit of money. Very interesting as well to see the volumes right here when the price picks up. So obviously someone like probably bought a Manticore fleet and brought it out into nullsec. If you have knowledge of this kind of stuff or ways to find out, you can probably try to time these as well, and those are pretty good opportunities to unload some of the goods that you're investing if you are investing in the Tech 2 market. Here is the Nemesis, also starting to come down once the chart comes closer to 20 million and the volumes keep going down here. I think you're looking pretty good for investing once again. Nighthawk, the one command ship I liked because it was finally correcting, is already going back up once again. Honestly, I feel that the price is just a little bit too high at the moment for the command ships. Last year and the year before that, we've had quite a few good opportunities with quite a few really big spikes in the command ships. But then the price was much lower, closer to like 200 million were buying opportunities. And oh dear, here is someone wanting a convo. Am I going to include that? I'll press accept and say we are live though. We are live. All right. Do you have a question? Am I busy? Yep, I'm recording right now. So if you have a question, Talia, sure, feel free to shoot it. So we'll see if she has anything. I can, in the meantime, check out the Oneros right here, which, well, a little bit of a spike, but nothing too drastic. Low point of 140 million. And back up to 160, which is not bad, but again, this opportunity is passed. And again, here you can see the volume being quite high when the price started to take off. So that is obviously something that you need to keep an eye on if you're making these investments. Here is the purifier chart. Unfortunately managing to maintain its price closer to 19 million. Buy opportunity as low as almost 17 million. That was not bad at all. Nice little spike here. But now it's, yeah, you have to decide for yourself. Do you think that the purifier can go a little bit lower once again, or do you think that 19 million, like the other covered up frigates, tends to be a correct price, a very low price for them? And do you expect higher spikes like these? So we'll see. Let me see. Yes, why don't they make drones usable to the shortcut bar like weapons to activate the drones to attack? It isn't a main weapon system. Well, not exactly a market question. But I do know that CCP has that in like the long-term planning, but that actually takes some work because of, I guess, the code of how drone works at the moment. So I know CCP has something like that in the long-term planning. Nope, live on the recording. I'm not doing this one over Twitch. But yeah, there we go. You know, some interaction here as well. In the meantime, let's touch on the scimitar here, which, oh, going pretty low. Let's see if we've got buy orders below 140. Yeah. Scimitar, honestly, the final one here of the Take-Two product, for your consideration, I would say. Buy orders 138, I think you can probably pick a few up. And here, look at the previous sell opportunities, 170, 175, and here a little bit at 160. Yeah, honestly, that's not looking bad at all, and this makes me think that I may need to try and make a trip out to Jeddah myself, because that is not bad if you look at where the chart is heading. This won't maintain. This is not going to keep going. Alright, thanks Talia for yep, of course. Of course, it's Eve Talk. That's what I do. That's what I do on this account. So there we go. Yeah, scimitar. Very low, and actually breaking the previous two bottoms right here, where it actually started to go back up. This is very interesting. And probably a buy opportunity in my opinion. So very interesting stuff. Next up, the Tech 3 market, 2710 for that. Let's quickly touch on what's been happening here. Here is the Legion flattening out at 200 million. So actually after the increase in price, managing to maintain itself. Very interesting. I'll quickly touch on supply demand. You can see those 7120 units right there. That's quite a lot. So I do think that there is some downward pressure. The reasons that people have been given for this huge increase in price is A, the confessor that's coming, and so what they are thinking is that manufacturers are actually holding back production a little bit to prepare for that, which I actually feel that these numbers 20 and 71 right here coming, well, actually 85 days ago, 88 days ago, they're not recent enough. So it's actually possible. It's actually possible. If those were very recent, that would not have been possible. But here again, the Loki, very nice increase in price up to 200 million. And let's have a quick look at supply demand here. Yeah, 11 units coming in. That's actually not that huge. You know, we saw 50, 70 happen like a few months ago. So here is the Proteus. Let's touch on that one. Not that recent, 3318, not bad. So there are some people that are trying to take this opportunity to sell off some stocks, I think. But yeah, it's definitely a possibility. A combination of the other explanation that was often given was that the Tech 3 ships are becoming really a main ship for Nullsec alliances, and so they might have made some pretty big investments in some of these fleets. But combine that with the confessor coming in, and thus the guys that are producing Tech 3 ships actually holding off a little bit on their production, not flooding the market completely at this opportunity, not dumping all of their stocks and not pouring all of their efforts in these 4 ships, that this could just have increased the movement up. And considering the sell orders that are coming in. I mean, 21 here, and then 11 we gotta go back to like 84 days. That one's been there for 5 days at least. This does not feel like the oversupply that we had before. In the previous spikes, when it would go up to like 160, so that was just a spike of 130, we would see an immediate flooding, an immediate return of that supply, with hundreds of Tech 3 ships coming to the markets right away to try and take advantage of these temporarily high prices. So this does feel like something different, and so in my opinion, there is obviously truth to Gnostic Alliances buying a lot of Tech 3 ships. I think they're pretty much the only ones, together with big wormhole alliances, but they probably produce them themselves, who can actually take such a market share and drive the price up like that. But an impact from industrialists that produce Tech 3 ships, expecting the Confessor, making preparations for that and actually decreasing their normal Tech 3 production a little bit, I think is definitely a possibility as well, considering that we've not seen the market being flooded with new supply right away, which after a spike like this, I mean, anyone that wanted to really dump huge stocks, they should have done so by now. So yeah, very good. I think you guys are right on the money. It's probably those two coming together into pretty much a perfect storm there. And then for the extra products, 31 minutes, we are going to take a look at the ice products. Just a personal fancy of mine. What I've been seeing during this EVE talk every week is that the fuels seem to have been slowly trending down a little bit, and that actually surprises me. And so I'm curious to see what the ice products have actually been doing over the last 6 months or so. So let's take the 6-month chart here, and yeah, here heavy water gotten from ice on 6 months from 110 ISK to below 50. That's actually a serious decrease in price, despite the fact that normally the supply of ice is actually steady. And here again we do see this little bump here because of the ice boxer impact, and then a correction with a newer consensus price like at 60 ISK, so 10 higher, 20% higher than what it was before, or even more, because we were close to 45 ISK. But the downtrend here in this ice product heavy water is clearly visible, and so this could actually have been what has impacted the fuel prices, although quite a little bit slower, because you don't only need these types of stuff. Here are the helium isotopes. Man, that one has been crashing quite seriously, but if I'm not mistaken, the isotopes are sometimes a little bit manipulated by nullsec blocks. I know that Goonswarm used to do some like ice interdictions and stuff like that to try and make some money in this. So yeah, this correction though pretty significant. Let's have a look here at hydrogen isotopes. It's not as visible, but I would say starting mid-August or maybe even August, like this little spike here, there is a little bit of a downward trend from like 840 to 740 that actually does feel like it's sustained. You know, if you draw the chart right here, you're definitely a lot lower even on this little spike than where we were in this last summer. So interesting. Here is the liquid ozone. Here it's actually pretty obvious, starting at 500, maintaining itself. August the summer was here, serious decrease in price for some reason, and then now here maybe a little bit of a spike, the impact of the ice boxer thing. But yeah, these ice products I think are here the nitrogen isotopes are, I think, what have been keeping the price of the fuels low and slowly trending down. And the fact that it has a PI, a planetary interaction component, to produce fuels has been what managed to maintain them a little bit higher than the percentages that these ice products seem to have lost. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. Here the oxygen isotopes, I think this could be like market manipulation and some movements on that. And this one actually managed to maintain itself pretty decently from 820 down to 780. That's not that drastic, but here the downward trend right here is actually pretty severe. And let's have a look at strontium here. Again, going down quite a lot now. Went back up after the summer. Is that because of the fuel changes when it came to jumping and things like that? It's a possibility as well. I'm not 100% sure, but I do think that the general trend that we see in a lot of these ice products being down over 6 months is what has been dragging fuels down a little bit. So yeah, pretty interesting. The ice products market. I would have thought that this could maintain itself quite a bit better with limited supply because of how the respawn mechanics of the new ice belts work, but I guess more and more groups have actually been able to establish themselves where there is ice and been able to start really bringing them in even higher numbers to the market. And as we see that in general, these ice products seems to have been going down over the last 6 months. Anyways, there you go then, guys. That's it for this EVE talk. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.